Good afternoon, hello, welcome to the TriathlonDan YouTube channel. If you haven't heard, yesterday I did Ironman Wales 2022 along with probably lots of you guys and girls, so well done to you if you did do the event. If you did or if you didn't, hopefully you enjoyed this race debrief. I'm going to try and not get too into the statistics and the numbers and things. I'm going to talk about the event as a whole, what I think went well, what I think didn't go well, so hopefully you get something from it either way. I've made some notes, see me glancing this way, that's why I'm not being rude. Firstly, thank you to anybody who supported me, shouted at me, said hello to me before the event, heckled me in any way, whatever. Any sort of engagement over this weekend has been absolutely brilliant. Honestly, the triathlon community blown me away this weekend. I felt quite emotional at times because it's really quite crazy. But yes, it's all good. So thank you very much. Now, if you've got any questions about any of this, please do let me know in the comment section down below because I'm probably not going to be able to cover everything in this video. We're going to try and keep it to not an essay length. Now, the day before in the town centre, I think Tenby's really well suited to an event. There's not too much walking. Everything's quite close. There's loads of parking and stuff. It actually went really to plan. Didn't do too many steps. Wasn't in town centre all day. It was absolutely brilliant. I ate like an 8-year-old child. I did not have a very good pre-race day diet, but we're going to cover that in more detail in videos to come. And yeah, everything went to plan. Now, Total Endurance Nutrition are supporting me with nutrition guidance from here on in, and we've started over the last few weeks with them talking to me about my race nutrition. So Sam has helped me plan my race nutrition. Now, I've done a fair few events in the past, so it's not like I'm going to him and saying, tell me what to eat. I'm saying, this is what I eat, this is what I think works well and doesn't work well, and then we're sort of adapting it as we go. So we'll cover that in more detail then. Race day breakfast. I had a bowl of porridge, 100 grams of oats, banana and chocolate protein powder, and then the addition from Total Endurance Nutrition was to have a bagel with Marmite on. Now, if I'm honest, I had to absolutely force this down. Maybe it's the texture, maybe it's that additional bit of food. I really struggled to get it down me, but I knew I needed to do as I'm told, so that's what I did. Got down to the swim start, got my stuff on my bike, all to plan. I had a gel 30 minutes before the start. I had a good visit to the Portaloo about an hour before the start. We queued up on the start line and everything had gone to plan. Half of the battle with triathlons and any events at the minute is getting to the start line, isn't it? It's getting there uninjured and it's getting there not ill. And I don't need to touch wood. In fact, I will touch wood. Touch wood, I was there in both of those scenarios. So I'd already took that as a win. I was there and I was ready to rock and roll. Now, the race build-up in Tenby is like no other. The crowd is absolutely crazy. It makes it so hard to walk anywhere, but it is brilliant. Of course, unfortunately, the Queen had passed away last week, so that changed the race day structure a little bit, and that we played the British national anthem first. We had a minute silence before the national anthem, and then the Welsh national anthem, and then, of course, straight into various AC/DC songs. Long story short, everybody, I think, was feeling a bit emotional. Everybody was a bit goose pimply. Everybody, of course, had their own reasons for being there as well. But either way, I was ready. I wanted this. I was ready to crack on. And that's what I did. Now, for the swim, I positioned myself in, I would say, between 100 and 150th into the water. That's probably a little bit further forward than I would swim on a normal day. However, it felt like it was the right sort of time. I've been working hard on swimming over the last few weeks. That's not a huge amount of time, I know. But, I felt like I wanted to challenge myself. Looking at the swim conditions, it looked pretty rough, but it didn't look too bad until you started analysing, oh, that kayak is going like this and that boat is going like this. But I try not to let it get to me. If I'm honest, I didn't give it too much thought. I just thought, well, I'm just going to crack on with this. So ran into the water. Within 30 seconds, I'd swallowed a mouthful of salt water and I was not feeling great. I was out of my depth, so I couldn't stand up. And I was short breathing, I was panicking, I was flapping around, I was breaststroking, treading water. It was not good. And I was thinking, what on earth am I doing here? Then, of course, you've got swimmers swimming around you, swimming over you and stuff. So it was not ideal. And that was a real, ooh, I might not go through this sort of thing. I pulled myself together, tried to keep doing some swimming. And for the first 5 minutes, it was stop-start. It was not good at all. The way out was the most difficult part of the course, and I didn't know what the other two, it's like a triangle shape, Dorito shape, swim course. I didn't know what the other two sides were going to be like, and I was just hoping it wasn't going to be like that. I eventually got to the first turn buoy, and I remember coming to the first turn buoy, and you can't even see it even from pretty close, because the waves are that big, and the swell was that big. If you look up, and you're at the bottom of a swell, you can't see these big 10-foot swim buoys. Absolutely unreal. So eventually got to it, turned right, and then it still felt similar, big waves, big swells. In reality, it was a lot faster once we'd gone around the first buoy, but but it didn't really feel like it on the day. I find it really hard to gauge if you're actually swimming fast, and if the water's moving with you, I don't know how you feel, how fast you're going. We got to the second turn, turn right back towards the beach. It's a 2-lap Australian exit swim. And it was like bodyboarding, so it was just a case of like you'd like get picked up by a wave and you go like 10 meters, and then the next one would go on top of you. And it wasn't always like that, but there was a fair few waves that were like that, and it was a lot faster to the beach. Now, when I got out of the water and walked through the Australian exit, I was trying to gather myself. I was trying to think, I don't want to get back in that water. It really shook me up. I was feeling ill. I'd glanced at my watch and saw 40 minutes, and I thought, ooh, I wanted to swim about 1 hour 10. In honesty, this is not looking good. So that would have been a 1 hour 20 swim. But I wasn't bothered about the time. I was just thinking, how am I going to get through this thing? Then I saw Liz on the Australian exit, and she said, "Are you all right, Daniel?" And I thought, ooh, that means I don't look all right. And I said, yeah, fine. It's just hard or something. And I was thinking, oh my goodness. I got back in the water. I said at the beginning of this video that the event for me that day was about gratitude and was about making the most of the opportunity, because there are some people who don't have the opportunity, or for whatever reason aren't able to take part, who would absolutely love to. And I just thought, there's no way I can stop now and say, oh, do you know what, it was getting a little bit difficult, so I stopped. Absolutely no chance. So I got back in the water and cracked on again. The second lap was a fair bit better. That first section was still quite bad, but every time I stopped, now I was thinking a bit more clearly. Every time I stopped or looked around, there was water safety people either on paddleboards or kayaks or boats, and they were all being really attentive. I could also see people being hauled aboard them, so it was like the support was there. So I'm sure those teams were really, really busy that day. There are rumours of between 200 and 300 people being pulled out of the swim, so I can't imagine how stressful it would have been for those staff and volunteers. Absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much for the water safety teams for looking after us, and it certainly made me feel a bit safer. I thought, well, if I'm going to get into difficulty, I'm probably going to be spotted and be okay. So I just kept going. When we turned right after the first turn again, the second one, the one that was just like next to it, had moved. So the tide was obviously doing things to the turn so I was also like laughing to myself, like, what on earth's happening? And then I found I was able to get more to a bit more of a swim rhythm, swam a bit more normally, and then got back on the beach and saw 1 hour 16. So I was from a 36-minute second lap. I thought, okay, I've salvaged that. 1 hour 16 isn't what I wanted, but it's not a nightmare. It's not terrible. And I've got out of the water in one piece, having done the swim. So that was job done. Now, that split was also 1,010th on the day, that swim split was. So a lot of people didn't struggle as much in the water as me. I think it actually swam pretty fast. Although the conditions were tough, it was actually fast because of the currents. I just panicked, like many other people probably did as well, and struggled because of the panic aspect. T1, Wales is famous for this. You run up the beach, up the zigzags, and then you run about 1 kilometre into town. It's really well supported. You have a bag, which is your pink bag on the zigzags. You can put a pair of trainers in it. You can take your wetsuit off and put your wetsuit in it. You can carry your wetsuit. You can leave your wetsuit on until you get to transition. And the choice is entirely up to you, as long as you don't forget your pink bag. I decided to take my wetsuit off on the zigzags, put it around my shoulders, carry my pink bag, which I put some trainers in, put my trainers on, just some like slip-on Nike Alpha Fly Tempos. Got them on, and I'd planned to run with purpose to T1. I thought this was the fastest way to do it, and I think it was. My heart rate was quite high because I was running pretty fast, but because I had my wetsuit on my shoulders, I could move my arms. I sort of like held onto an arm and held onto a leg and just ran normally, and it seemed to work really well. I'm not carrying a bag full of a wetsuit. It seemed to actually work pretty well. It was quite busy because I was 1,010th faster split, or slower split. So it was a bit of zigzagging, but I think it was worth it. I made a fair few places on the way to T1. Got into T1, swapped shoes and cycling shoes, picked my bike helmet up out of my bag, which had nutrition, number belt, sunglasses in it, and then I chucked my bag back and then started walking to transition, whereas normally I'd sit there, put all those things on, put stuff in my pockets, then go. I was trying to make haste. So T1 was done and dusted in 9 minutes, which is about 3 minutes faster than I did it last time in 2019. So I was really quite happy with that. Onto the bike. Now, I'd set off with the intention to not go too hard in the first 75 to 90 minutes. I wasn't looking at any average powers. I just looked at my current power and heart rate occasionally. More than anything, I was riding to feel. I do a fair bit of bike riding, so I know how I feel, and I felt like I was riding relatively easy. when I got to Angle, which was about 75 minutes in, I looked at the stats and I was going too hard. I'd normalised about 245 watts, which if I was just doing a standalone ride, might have been okay. I knew it was too hard for an Ironman. When I turned back into the headwind, I knew I had to knock it off. It was demoralising having to back the power off into a headwind because that's the way you should be pressing on. But I knew if I wanted to get to the finish, that's what I had to do. And I did that for the most part. I dropped it down to probably 220-ish, probably not as much as I should have done. I got around onto the first hilly loop up to Narberth and so on. Anyway, I was starting to feel it. When we went up Wiseman's and Saundersfoot, I felt okay, but I knew the fatigue was setting in. About 3.5 hours, I got back around to Tenby, and exactly the same places where it happened last time. I just felt really bad. Excuse me. So I was sort of 2 to 2.5 hours left to go, and I couldn't push much power. I was doing about 200 watts. I didn't completely blow up, but it was really hard to push that power out. Like, my perceived exertion was really quite high. So I pushed on up the climb, so I knew that was where I'd make the time up, and then took it easier on the descents. I actually descended a lot slower than I did 3 years ago. Some of the descents, like 5-minute descents, I was dropping 20-30 seconds on, which is quite alarming, but it was spitting with rain. There were some loose sections in some places, and to finish first you got to finish. That's what I did. Frustratingly as well, I was struggling to get in the big ring for the last 20 or 30 miles. My front mag had somehow moved slightly, but it wasn't the end of the world. It changed eventually if I changed it about 10 times, but it wasn't just another hindrance. As well as it feeling bad, things start to chafe, your saddle starts feeling uncomfortable, you don't get the bottle you want at the aid station, your position starts hurting, all those sorts of things just compound a little bit. I was fueling okay, I was starting to feel a little bit sick sort of 4.5-5 hours in, but I knew that once I got off the bike, it'd be a bit easier to just have other things, because other things at aid stations. So the bike had gone okay. I normalised 234 watts, which is pretty much exactly the same as what I did 3 years ago. Rode 6 hours and 3 minutes, which was 20 minutes slower than 3 years ago. The conditions completely different. Started raining towards the end, but my bike split was 143rd overall, so some 800 places faster than my swim was. So relatively speaking, that was a good bike ride versus the field. T2 3 minutes 40. I got off the bike thinking, as you do, how do your legs feel? Slowly jogged in my cleats, didn't want to slip or injure myself or anything like that. Got into transition 10, swapped my shoes, and again I didn't rush it, but I didn't mess around. 3 minutes 40, probably could have been 30 seconds faster, but that was okay. Onto the run. Now the run course, the support is absolutely unreal. It's like nothing else I've ever taken part in. The volunteers, the crowds, the competitors, it was brilliant. For me specifically, which I can only thank you guys for, but also just in general, it is brilliant, and that absolutely helps. You need to keep a lid on it on lap 1 and 2 so it doesn't ruin the rest of your race, but it absolutely helps. Now, I'd taken 3 gels with me on the run course because that's what I had at Outlaw last year, I can't remember. I thought 3 gels would be plenty. Actually, I felt quite hungry. When I got on the run, I had a gel as soon as I started. Half an hour later, felt hungry, so I had another one. Then half an hour later, felt hungry again. I thought, well, I need to have another one then. I can't run feeling hungry in an Ironman. So I had 3 gels in the first 90 minutes and then sort of thought, ooh dear, I don't have any more in transition, so I can't just nip back. I'm going to have to just drop onto on-course nutrition. I tried one of the Morton gels, but I've never trained with it, so I was hesitant, and they're a different texture, and the texture was just enough to put me off, and I just spat it out, and I thought, I can't do that. So I went on to banana, Coke, and tortilla chips. It was going okay, but it just made aid stations a little bit slower. I was having to stop and walk and get tortilla chips down and banana and stuff, but it was okay. I need to fuel to get to the end of it, don't I? So I wasn't too worried about it. Now, Matt Waterfield, Coach Woodnote, was behind me on the bike. I passed him about 25 miles in. I didn't know how much time I put into him in my mind when I was blowing up towards the end of the bike or struggling towards the end of the bike. I was thinking, like you do, he's catching me. People are going to be catching me. I'm losing all these places. In reality, that wasn't the case. When I was running out on the first lap up the hill, he was coming back down his transition, did some back of the envelope maths. I had about 25 minutes, and I was thinking, this could be on. This could be close. I knew he'd want to run about 3:15 to 3:20, which is crazy. I knew I wanted to run about 4 hours. So I was thinking, well, he's probably going to catch me, but this gives me motivation to keep pushing. So that's what I used it for. On the second lap of the run, this is how much motivated I was to try and stay ahead of him. I went PP twice while I was either running or walking or in other opportune moments. rather than go to a Portaloo. So true dedication there. I asked Liz for a time split. I was at 10 miles and she said that I was 15 minutes ahead of him, and I knew that wasn't enough. He was taking more than a minute a mile out of me. But again, it just gave me some motivation just to keep pushing, not to slack off, just to keep working. Matt then came past me halfway through the third lap, so with like 1.5 laps to go, so halfway through the third lap. I wasn't upset about this at all, and Nick, one of my also Icarus club mates as well, came past me very, very closely to Matt. I was absolutely buzzing with that. I'd ticked my job offers, using them for motivation. It's great to see them having a good race, so that was really good. I'd also seen various other people I'd known on the run course. That was motivating. I was happy to give Matt a better race than I did last year at Outlaw Half, when I only got past like 3 miles into the run course. Now at this point, so I'm sort of 3.5 laps in, coming off the fourth lap. You're about 19, 20 miles in. The effort required just goes up and up and up, even though your pace is going down or staying the same. It just gets so hard, doesn't it? So it was getting more difficult. I wasn't high-fiving as many people. I wasn't tapping the signs that the kids have made for Touch for Power and all that, and wasn't talking to many people just because it gets hard. I kept pushing. I was walking all the aid stations. I was picking up whatever I could, eating and drinking. I knew that was important. When I was running, my actual run pace, I was only a sort of stat on screen current run pace. My actual run pace was similar to what it had been at the beginning, maybe 15 to 20 seconds a mile slower. But that was okay, but it's just that those other things around that I was getting a little bit slower with. Eventually, got to the finish. And my run split was 4 hours and 6 minutes, which took me to an 11:38 overall, and it was the 337th fastest run split on the day to finish 207th overall. I wanted to race and do sub 12 hours, so I was really happy with that. I was really happy to have had a good day out. All in all, a great day. I wouldn't say that I'm over the moon with my performance. I've not exceeded my expectations, but getting through that swim, finishing a tough bike ride, and then finishing an Ironman marathon without absolutely crumbling, I think I need to take a lot of confidence from that. So you can't always just go and really over-deliver. And perhaps being 10 minutes slower than I was 3 years ago, when I was about 12 kilos lighter 3 years ago and probably trained a fair bit more, I think I need to take some encouragement from that, so I will do. What's next for me? Well, I'm doing Outlaw Half X in 2 weeks. If my legs get some life back in them, I will be there. Entries are still open if you are interested in a middle distance triathlon in 2 weeks. There's probably not many of you that are. Some of you might already be entered. It's probably long enough to use the fitness and just recover a bit and do a little bit of training. I'm hoping this is what I'm saying to myself. And then I'm going to give some real thought as to what I'm going to do next year. I love big events like this, Ironman Wales, but they are just so hard and take up so much of our time in life, don't they? So just going to give those things a thought. But I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got something from it. I hope there's some tips in there that some people can learn from, or at the very least, you've enjoyed an insight into how my race has been. Look forward to sharing the journey with you over the next weeks and months, and I will see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock for, I can't say it with a straight face, a day of proper triathlon training. There'll be no triathlon training. See you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.